I drove nearly 10,000 kilometers from Amsterdam to the Arctic Circle and back, but how much did it really cost? In this video I'll break it all down, from fuel to tolls, ferries and food. Some expenses are obvious and other costs might surprise you. To keep things simple, we are going to break down every expense one by one, so you see exactly what it takes to drive this far in a tiny car. Spoiler alert, I planned to travel on a budget, and I did, just a bigger budget than I expected. We start with the very start of this project, buying the car, making the bed in it and all the stuff I bought before departure. Next we move on to the actual expenditures during the trip, and at the end we'll add everything up to a grand total. Was this trip worth the cost? Stick around to find out. Since this was my first road trip, I had to invest a lot. So let's start with the biggest investment. I needed a car I could sleep in with low fuel consumption and at least some basic comforts like air conditioning and cruise control. After a long search, I found a Volkswagen High-Up with just 100,000 km on the odometer. The price €5,650 and another €495 in delivery cost, including an MOT, new oil and filters and new brake discs. So altogether, just for the car I already spent €6,145. But of course that was only the beginning, because the current state of the car wasn't going to cut it. With long and dark Arctic nights ahead, I needed proper headlights, so I invested €130 in road legal LED headlights, one of the best upgrades I made, see the link in the description. Winter tires were also essential, so I ordered and paid for a good set with the mandatory M&S logo for convoy roads, but they didn't arrive in time. So I had to go with Petlas tires instead, not the best, but good enough. Total cost €350. For better visibility and comfort, I added Bosch Aero Twin wipers, a high quality interior filter because tunnels can have really poor air quality, and wind deflectors to keep the windows open at night without freezing. In total, the upgrades, headlights, winter tires, wipers, interior filter and wind deflectors added up to €565. To stay flexible and avoid hotel costs for every night, I decided to sleep in my car. But before I could start working on that, I needed to buy the right tools. I found some affordable parkside tools on the Lidl website, good enough for a one-time job, or at least that is what I thought. Turns out they weren't as great as expected, but you can see that in the second episode of the channel. Total cost for the tools to build the bed, €205. Now it was time to buy the materials to make the bed from, but I made a mistake here. I got wood for the bed frame, boards for the top and carpet to match the car's interior. But the first roll wasn't elastic, so wrapping the corners was a total nightmare. I had to buy another one, this time elastic. The wood and carpet were surprisingly affordable at just €115. Then there were the smaller materials like drill bits, screws and other essentials, which added another €45. Total cost for all the materials to build the bed, €160. The Arctic was going to be freezing, so I needed a way to stay warm. This turned out to be the biggest disappointment of the trip. I bought a diesel heater along with the necessary accessories like tubing and an inverter. My power station's 12-volt outlet only gave 10 amps, but the heater needed 16 amps. So I found an inverter that converted 230 volts to 12 volts with at least 20 amps output. The diesel heater cost $160, the inverter $138 and the tubing and small extras $102, bringing the total to €400. But because this was my first big trip, I needed to buy a lot more stuff to be fully prepared. A 500-watt power station and the solar panel set me back €296. Then there were all the smaller essentials like snow chains, jerry cans, a first aid kit, storage boxes, snow boots, thermal clothing and a lot more. Total cost for general road trip gear €520. If you know someone who's planning a road trip like this, share this video with them. It might save them from some costly surprises. To capture great footage for you all to see, I needed a good portable camera, but that came at a price. I got the Osmo Pocket 3 Creator Bundle for €670. Use the link in the description if you plan to buy one and support the channel. But filming creates a lot of data, so I also needed extra storage. SD cards and hard drives added another €230. Total cost for the camera gear and storage came at a hefty €900. The costs were quickly adding up, and the trip didn't even start yet. Now let's see what the actual expenses of the trip were. I kept it simple, bread for breakfast and lunch, and for dinner I mostly cooked the food I brought along. I also visited McDonald's a few times and ordered a pizza somewhere along the way. With a mix of wild camping and junk food, my total food expenses were just €192. That's a little over €10 per day. Is sleeping in your car always free? Well, not always. Most nights I camped for free, but sometimes I needed facilities. At Bobel Camp in Leudingen I paid €21 for the night plus €2 for a shower. At Fjallstova I spent about €4 to park overnight, make use of the shower and charge my power station. In the end, my total camping costs were only €27. The only things left before we reveal the grand total are tolls, ferries, fuel and unexpected costs. Toll roads can add up quickly, so how much did I really spend just to keep moving? Let's break it down. To make things easier and cheaper, I ordered a Brobizz toll tag for €26, mainly for Denmark. With it, I paid for the 2 bridges connecting Denmark to Sweden, €27 for the first one and €61 for the second one. That is €88 each way. But tolls didn't stop there. Before leaving, I registered my license plate on ePass24 to handle automatic tolls in Sweden and Norway, as well as ferries, which I come to in a moment. In Sweden I barely paid anything, just 80 cents, but in Norway it was €43 in total. Though with my license plates often covered in snow and invisible to the cameras above the road, the real amount should have been a lot higher. Adding everything up, including the toll tag itself, I spent €246 on tolls. I wasn't sure how much each ferry would cost or in what way they needed to be paid, but this one might surprise you. In the end, the process was easier than expected. A crew member simply came to my window and I paid by card. They also scanned my license plate, so registering with ePass24 before leaving turned out to be a smart move. This way, ferries are often cheaper. The total price for the 5 ferries I took was just €43. That is in sharp contrast with the next one. I drove 9,235 kilometers in 18 days, but how much did that actually cost me in fuel? Well, it turns out the car used a lot more than the 1 liter per 20 kilometers it usually does. The extreme cold and the fact that I had to leave the engine running at night because my diesel heater failed made fuel consumption increase to 1 liter per every 15.6 kilometers. Fuel prices also played a role, around €1.55 per liter in Sweden, but close to €2 in Norway and Finland. Total fuel cost €1,054. Before we move on to the grand total, we take a look at the unexpected expenses. These were my biggest financial surprises. The biggest scare of the trip was sliding off the road in a blizzard and needing to call a tow truck. That cost €316 up front, but luckily my insurance covered it later, so I won't count that in the final total. Other breakdowns did cost money though. My camera hit the concrete and I had to get the gimbal replaced at a DJI repair center for €80. They also replaced the battery handle that completely failed in the Arctic cold, but this was under warranty. The inverter for the diesel heater also stopped working and had to be sent in for repair. Also under warranty, but it took many months of back and forth to get it done. My stove didn't work in the Arctic cold, so I had to buy a new one in Finland together with a new gas canister. This added another €30. After the trip, the brake discs were badly warped and had to be replaced. Another €100 expense. In the end, the only real financial hit was the DJI gimbal repair, new stove and gas canister and the new brake discs, bringing the total unexpected costs to a surprisingly low amount of only €210. Trips like this take a ton of time, effort and money. If this video helped or entertained you, please consider supporting the channel. It is free for you and makes a huge difference for me. In total, I spent €10,676. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Would I have done some things differently? Of course, but that is always easy to say afterward. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and I'll see you in the next video.